Hi everyone and welcome back to the subject of history of English language. So today's topic we're going to be dealing with the roots of English language. So to really start with, we'll be giving you the overview of what we're going to be talking about. First, we're going to be dealing with the origin of the English. Second one is about the migration and the third one is about the language change. So to start with our first topic, we do have the origin of English language. So, to the origin of English language, the English language really belongs to the Indo-European family of language and therefore related to the most other languages spoken in Europe and Western Asia from the island to India. So, to give you really the gist and the really the timeline of the origin of English language, we'll be presenting you this figure wherein it started into the 500 era, wherein the Northern Sea and the Germanic people, including the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, and the Frisian, settled in Britain, bringing with them the dialects that become the Old English. So after and during that one, we do have also the few loan words that are borrowed from the native Romano-Britons that further influence the Celtic language or British Latin in disputed. So during the 700s, we do have already here the Sedmos hymn, the oldest known English poem that is composed around this time. So around 800s to 1000. Here, there is an invasion already of Vikings, and then followed by the at the 1066 wherein there is an establishment already of the Frenchmen and in the Normans wherein the invasion for England and then the establishment of the ruling class. This one is followed by the transition to Middle English at 1150 and then resulting to the conquest of the um, French words beginning to enter to English and then including those regarding the royalty, the law, and the food items. And then after that one, at 1480, there is already transition to early modern English and then followed by uh, the shift or the great vowel shift wherein it affected all dialects of English and then followed by the new strain of English evolving into from the England to North America and then at 1800s there is already a transition to modern English and then the spread of English already across the world as a result of the British Empire. So after that one, the 1800s, and there you go, the 21st century already, wherein English continues to spread through media such as Hollywood films, popular music, and the internet. Okay, so if we're gonna be looking into that one, this is the specific discussion for the origin of English language. So again, the invasion of Britain during the 5th century, and then there you go, the prehistoric or the primitive, and then the early Old English, and then the late Old English. If we're gonna be looking into the prehistoric, early Old, and then late Old English, there is really the facing of the different poets showcasing the notable, literature and also the consequential evolution of the English language. And then here at the early Middle English, wherein there is already a formal utilization of English already, wherein the arrangement of words and phrases were created to create a well-formed sentences in a language. So here, there is already standardizing the English itself, wherein it comes already into structure and also standardizing the utilization and also the structure of English through the different like the nouns, pronouns, or adjective, wherein it also and it is already indicated into the grammatical function. So late Middle English, wherein there is a standard was brought about, and at the early modern English, wherein there is a significant, role already of the pronunciation, vocabulary, and the grammar itself. So another is about the rebirth of societal and cultural movement from the Elizabethan age. So there you go with the early modern English. And here also under early modern English, wherein there is already emigration of the variety of English of dialects from the West African to Native American, Spanish, and European. So here, there are some well-noted literature that were published and considered relevant to this age already. So at the late modern English, there is already a rise of the Industrial Revolution and the British Empire. So here there is already a discovery of the language in terms of science and technology, and new words, phrases, and concepts were described to these ideas and invention. So colonialism also take in that there is already the introduction of the English language as a way for them to learn, engage, and hopefully benefit from the overseas. So the idea may have backfired as the English language walk away with a large number of foreign words. So here already, the English language already entered to the 21st century era, wherein English grammar has become refined already, and the English learners decided to study the language already at their fancy and taken granted as many of us, since it is already accessing the courses of improving English. So we'll now be moving on to the language change. So here at the language change, we're gonna be dealing and also, meeting this four words: the migration, immigration, emigration, and invasion. Migration is basically more of the instrument in the commingling of the people and the commingled of groups of speaking from the different language. So from the words, the sounds, the grammatical structures, the adaptation, and the elimination of the bilingual or the multilingual environment. While when we talk about immigration, naman, it's about these are the languages other than English, French, and Aboriginal languages. When we talk about immigration into the language, sometimes they are utilizing English for survival. When we talk about emigration, naman, this is the act of leaving one's own country to settle permanently in another. So therefore, the goal of the emigration of language here is the competence. So invasion also takes place into the language change, wherein this is an act or instance of invading or entering as an enemy. So again, we're going to be dealing with the early history of immigration and invasion, and then also the later history of the immigration and invasion. Start with the language change. So for the language change, it started with the extinction of the merging and acquiring new words and phrases constantly. So here, colonialism of immigration and globalization comes in and really greatly impacted the way we speak and even think every day. So let's now move on. So there is the colonialism and in language already, wherein there is the modern world without influencing the colonialism. Colonialism here has been one of the first influential forces in language and creating long-lasting effect that persists to this day, and therefore colonizers impose their mother tongue into indigenous people, forbidding them to speak their native language. So here at colonialism and language, there is an enormous impact on the native people and their languages. They took the mother tongue of the colonizers and shaped their own accents and dialect. So today, English is spoken in many countries, but everyone can tell that an American and the Australian are really different from each other. So another in terms of the immigration or the international migration, this is defined as a movement of people crossing international borders. So here, internal migration occurs when there is or the purpose of the international migration, is that there is a spurt of wars, economic crisis, cultural changes, and therefore there is really a change of the utilization of English. So again, immigration leaves a huge impact on language, as immigrants usually have to learn a new vocabulary from the scratch, and therefore they need to teach also other people's words and phrases from their mother tongue. Now, let's look into how immigration of language tries to look into the United Nations. So, the number of international migrants worldwide has continued to grow rapidly in recent years. So, according to the experts, that this is not only the alteration of the language, but can also bring about entirely new dialects. So there you go, everyone. So after the immigration, there you go, the globalization of language. So through immigration of language, the globalization of language comes in, wherein there is already acceleration and intensification of economic interaction among the people, companies, and governments of different nations, and there is really a rigid technological change, and therefore the utilization of English as a universal language is really a must. So another consequence of globalization is that English has become the global language and considered to be the language of science, technology, and business, and therefore really people need to learn that one, and therefore other countries try to take note into the use of English through ESL, like that. So you can find English signs in almost every airport worldwide, and therefore the utilization of English really is a must. So from economy, um, going to the different countries like through tourism, and also to through the academic. So therefore, the use and utilization of English is a must. So the next one is about the later immigration. We're in here. Later immigration indicates that there is a large majority of 89% of the foreign-born living in the UK reported speaking English well or very well in the 2011 census. In 2018, about half of foreign-born adults had English as their first language at home. So therefore, really the use of English increases. So migrant children, because of academic, adapt English as their first language faster than adults. So about like 88% of people who moved to the UK had an English as their first language at home also in 2018, because they think that the adoption of English really is a must, because uh, the use or utilization of English will help them to be employed and have a higher average of earnings. So aside from that, the language change also from the later immigration is about the Italian words in Argentina, and also taking into acknowledging of the language dispute in Cameroon, and the other words of from the different countries that were definitely injected and comes into the language, and then as part of the vocabulary also. So, according to UNESCO, it is essential for educators and policymakers in each nation to really reshape the evolution of national language policies in a way that there are of all citizens to education in their own mother tongues and should be respected. So, therefore, the use of or the language change is really inevitable, and therefore, you really need to learn about the and also have the competence of the language, since it is in need and at the same time it is utilized across the world. So I guess that would be all for the discussion of the language change, including the migration of the English and the origin of English.